Start. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you had a great lunch, or your whatever is left of it, you're still enjoying it. After that really satisfying meal for the body, let's get some food for the soul. We are ready. We are ready to move on to the next segment of today's program with Swami Shukmuni Das ji, who is our next speaker. I request you all to kindly finish your lunch before Swamiji arrives. Let's start with a brief introduction of Swamiji. Swami Shukmuni Das ji was raised and schooled in London, United Kingdom, before being ordained as a Swami by His Holiness Pramukh Swami Maharaj in 1981. Thereafter, he underwent an in-depth study of Hindu scriptures and world literature, extracting important messages of these texts that can be imbibed into both the spiritual and corporate world. Upon completing his education, Shukmunidas Swami returned to London, where he oversaw youth activities for BAPS. Shukmunidas Swamiji's strong communication skills and experience in connecting with aspirants of all ages is evident through his insightful talks on Hindu values and teachings and their compatibility with the modern world. To that end, he has hosted several seminars, podcasts, and presentations in the corporate and spiritual world on valued topics such as leadership, youth mentorship, identity, and growth mindsets. Swamiji is looked upon as a mentor, a guiding figure, and an eloquent speaker. He continues to live Pramukh Swami Maharaj's message: in the joy of others lies our own, in his ongoing community service. May I please ask Swamiji to join us on the stage, please, and tell us how we should engage with attitude. Can I ask the audience to please put your hands together and welcome Swamiji.
श्री स्वामीनारायण भगवाननी जय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराजनी जय, गुणातीतानंद स्वामी महाराजनी जय, राधा कृष्ण देवनी जय, सियावर रामचंद्र भगवाननी जय, उमापति महादेवनी जय, गुरुहरि प्रमुख स्वामी महाराजनी जय, गुरुहरि महंत स्वामी महाराजनी जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज शताब्दी महोत्सवनी जय, अक्षरधाम महोत्सवनी जय. Namaskar to everyone. I know it's been a very quick transition, straight away climbing the steps and coming to the podium. And all of you have been rushed for your lunch, so firstly I'd like to be very apologetic that you haven't been able to complete everything that you wanted to desperately eat this afternoon. And it's a very humbling experience today because the Toronto chapter of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, which is also helping all the youngsters or those people who have come into this country to settle in very nicely, comfortably into their professions. And many of you here are doing good service by offering this gentle gesture of allowing people to join hands and work together. Today, the presentation that I present before you is not a teaching, it's not for preaching either. It's more like sharing thoughts of what we all actually should be reflecting upon on a daily basis. And there are perspectives in life that each one of us, we all need at every instance of our life. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, for those of you from Indian origin, you most probably know about him. He was the architect of modern India. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel is also known as the Iron Man of India. And the reason behind this was that he was very instrumental in bringing independence to India. And at the same time, it was his magic that brought 565 princely states together to build what we call today the Indian Union. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, once he was addressing a congregation of very elite alumni of Delhi. And the rare thing about Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was that his attire was purely Indian. He wore a dhoti, a jabbo, a koti, and a topi. And those alumni who had just studied at very, very prestigious universities in India, they saw him to be very orthodox. They saw him to be very traditional. As soon as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, he came up to the podium, they all started to laugh. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was a very calm person by nature, very powerful by action. And he allowed the crowd to laugh as much as they wanted to laugh. And then he started his introduction and he said that laugh, keep on laughing, laugh as much as you want to laugh, but don't make your lives such that people laugh at you. Immediately there's pin drop silence. So what was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel pointing at? He was pointing at something that Albert Einstein also once said, that the greatest human endeavor is that a person should strive to bring morality, dignity, beauty to one's own life by imbibing values. Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel was saying that we all need to focus on not just money, wealth, fame, name, status, but we also need to start focusing on a life that will bring us respect, a life where people will love your company, a life where people will see that you're a very dignified person, a life where people will remember you for the good that you keep on continuously doing. And that is why it's very important as leaders that we imbibe these qualities, that in the future we are remembered, and remembered in the right way. One of the most remarkable people of our era is Nelson Mandela. Many of you may have read about him. Nelson Mandela, who was the first black president of South Africa. So what was in Nelson Mandela that when he died, and at the state funeral at the FNB Stadium in Johannesburg, he had the largest gathering of VIP people from around the world. 190 countries sent their representatives. Over 100 former presidents and prime ministers, queens and kings of nations had come. Over 100 government statesmen had attended. In the African continent, this was the biggest funeral ever. Actually, it was the largest ever gathering of people, which was just surpassed by Queen Elizabeth II recently. Nelson Mandela, why did the whole world go to pay their respects to this person? Who, when you look at his life, he was a tribal. His father passed away when he was only 9. He was adopted by another tribe. He was educated. He went into politics as a student. But then there came a time that a magistrate had accused him of being party to an armed warfare. He was taken into prison, life imprisonment, under false accusations, allegations. Nelson Mandela was a young man who had a dream, he had a vision, that the whole nation should work together, whether they be black, whether they be white. That was his dream, that was his vision. And yet, there was this president at that time, John Worcester, who wanted to see Nelson Mandela hanged. Every week on the media, there would be some announcement by John Worcester that it is my dream to see Nelson Mandela hanged. Now, can you imagine 27 years at Robben Island, on an island in prison? Even today, many of you may have gone there. If you have a look, you'd be overwhelmed by a 10 by 8 foot room with very low ceiling. And Nelson Mandela, he spent 27 years in prison. Every 3 days, John Worcester would send a bill to the parliament for them to pass that this person should be hanged. It was torture. He was living in that cell and in prison for 27 years, with these announcements being made of hatred outside in the public. But in 1990, Nelson Mandela, he walked out of that prison. And he says he walked into freedom. When that day came, the whole media of the world was there. And one of those reporters who asked him a question was Richard Stangl. Richard Stangl was once the managing editor of the Time magazine, a very prestigious magazine. I'm sure most of you read that. He was also the former Undersecretary for Public Affairs and Public Diplomacy for the United States, a very well-read editor, author, a professional person, a government officer. He was there and he asked a question to Nelson Mandela, who's just walking out of the gate. 27 years in prison, just imagine. And the question he asks Nelson Mandela is, what do you think of John Worcester? What was Nelson Mandela's reply? He replied that he is a decent chap. How can a person who's been in jail for 27 years put away his bitterness, keep aside his hatred, have no taste for revenge, and speak so well about a person who actually wanted to execute him? How can that be? Because Nelson Mandela chose an attitude of forgiveness, of tolerance, of being good, of allowing people to excel. From 1990 to 1994, he became the president of South Africa. And what did he say to the former president of South Africa, Mr. Botha? Because even he was worried what's going to happen to South Africa now. How will these people rule this nation? And Nelson Mandela, he tells Mr. Botha, don't worry, you will be in my parliament. We will work together. There are no differences. You and I are one. Harmony is our goal. Dr. Abdul Kalam, he writes in his book, Transcendence, which he offered to Pramukh Sai Maharaj. In that book, he writes that in 2004, when he went to see Nelson Mandela, he asked Nelson Mandela once he had finished his meeting and they were walking out to the car. Nelson Mandela came to drop him off. And he asked Nelson Mandela that, what were your first thoughts when you walked out into freedom from jail? Nelson Mandela, he tells Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the President of India, that if I had not left behind my bitterness and hatred, I would still be in jail. Now think of this person who has had trials and tribulations, challenges and hardships that me and you will never face. But he chose an attitude of positivity. He chose an attitude to engage in life which would allow not just himself to excel, but even the people around him to excel. He had a heart where he could forgive. He had a mind where he could leave aside bitterness and hatred. The topic of the speech, the presentation, is engaging with attitude. If we have the right attitude, where does it take us? Look at the life of Nelson Mandela. And that is why the whole world united together to give him a farewell, which was the best and the largest ever on this earth. Attitude is very, very important. And that is why Zig Ziglar, the great motivationist, even he said that it is attitude more than aptitude that determines one's altitude. Very nice quotation. Attitude more than aptitude determines one's altitude. Do we want to reach great heights in life? Yes, there are great people around you. And you may see someone who's ordinary, one day they will become great. But what is real greatness? Real greatness is this: having such a perfect attitude that the people around you, they feel happy, they feel comfortable. Then what comes into making a good attitude? There are many qualities. You need acceptance, you need courage, you need optimism, you need so many things. But it's not that we cannot have a good attitude. Even the people we employ, how do we behave with them? How do we see them? How do we interact? How do we reply? Even with your family, with your little son or your daughter, you've come back after a hard day's work, and she or he wants to play with you. What's the first thing we do? Go to mom or go to dad. What about you? That child wants to play with you. What's your attitude towards that child is very important. They can read faces. Don't just say that kids are innocent. They don't know much. They know more than you and I. They can read your gestures. They can tell from our behavior. It is how we conduct ourselves that's most important. Look at the life of Lord Rama. I know there are many people here who may not have the background of Lord Rama, but he was a king of Ayodhya, and the Hare Krishna movement, they also include his murtis along with Krishna Bhagwan. He's been worshipped as God. Lord Rama, he was very young. He was the prince of Ayodhya and the next king to rule Ayodhya, the kingdom. Tomorrow is his coronation. His father Dashrath had already announced that he will be my successor. But what happens in between is that his stepmother, Kaikeyi, she tells the father, Dashrath, that Ram should be banished to the forests, and my son, Bharat, he should become king. And the reason why Dashrath had to accept that was that he had given a boon to his wife, and his wife was so clever. She said that I will ask when the time comes. And this was the time she asked, that Ram should be banished to the forest and my son Bharat should sit on the throne. Everyone is taken aback. King Dashrath is mentally broken. Ram is so calm, he's so composed, and he leaves for the forests. Long story short, he comes back after 14 years because that was the second boon she asked for. That you banish him, but you banish him for 14 years. How cruel can a person be? How bad that was. That boy is going to be crowned tomorrow as king, and you throw him into the jungles. And for 14 years. Ram comes back after 14 years. And who is the first person he meets? Kaikeyi. He meets his stepmother. He bows down with respect. And Ram Bhagwan stands up, he embraces her, and he says, Mother, thank you for sending me to the forests. If it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have known the love of my father. I wouldn't have known the fidelity of my wife Sita. I wouldn't have known of the true brotherhood of Lakshman. I wouldn't have known of the strength of all these people who helped me in these hard times. And Mother, I dearly thank you. Please do not keep anything in your heart. You will live with me and you will be happy. Don't worry. An attitude. Keeping the family together. Learning to forgive. Learning to accept somebody else's mistakes. These are the things that we really need to focus on. Yes, profession is something. Our careers, yes, they are needed. But what about our personal lives? Because we are so important to so many people. And the first amount of people is our family. We are very important to them. It is our attitude that will make that huge difference. Some of you may have heard the name of Arthur Ashe. When I grew up back in England, Arthur Ashe was a legend tennis player and someone I really, really liked watching. As a personal preference, there were two people I liked watching in tennis, Bjorn Borg, the Swedish tennis player, and Arthur Ashe. When you look at the life of Arthur Ashe, that level of tennis, the professional tennis, he was the first person ever, not being white. He became the first person ever to win the Wimbledon, the US Open, and the Australian Open. Arthur Ashe, he was the first black person to be selected in the American team for the Davis Cup. A phenomenal player. He had very many hardships when he was small, even in education, back at home. And yet, he surfaced to the top, became a professional tennis player to a great level. That so many great people, they revered him, they respected him. At the age of 39, Arthur Ashe had a bypass surgery. Unfortunately, through the blood transfusion, he contracted HIV/AIDS. In those days, it was very, very hard for anybody to accept this disease. 1983. He did not reveal his disease to the public till 10 years later. Yet he was doing his work. He was educating people. He was promoting health. He was doing so much. He established his own foundations. Arthur Ashe made it public in 1993 that he was suffering from AIDS. And all his fans around the world were devastated, literally shattered. And if you Google this thing, "Why me?" you can read the whole passage. There's one fan who writes to Arthur Ashe that why did God have to choose you for this bad illness? And what does Arthur Ashe reply? When I first read it, it brought tears to my eyes. That how deep an understanding does this person have? He's literally dying. And at the same time, when thousands of fans are writing to him, and this fan asks him that why does God have to choose you for this bad illness? How does Arthur Ashe reply? He replies that the world over, 50 million children start playing tennis, and only 5 million learn to play tennis. 500,000, they learn professional tennis. Only 50,000 come to the circuit. 5,000 reach the Grand Slam, only 50 they reach Wimbledon. 4 get to the semi-finals, only 2 make it to the final. When I was holding the winner's trophy at Wimbledon, I did not ask God, why me? In the midst of my illness, I should not be asking God, why me? Think of this. An attitude based on spirituality, an attitude with faith in God. We rarely understand this, but this attitude can take us beyond anything. It can help us navigate through life's toughest questions and problems, frustrations, anxiety, depression, you name it. There's this one spirituality, having faith in God, that can take us beyond, much beyond. People in this world have become great because these are the things they have in their minds. They've consolidated these beliefs in their hearts. You all know the name of Edmund Hillary. He was the first person, he was a New Zealander who was a mountaineer, he was an explorer, he's been to the Antarctic, and he was the first person to climb to the summit of Mount Everest. There's a very wonderful, it's a lengthy documentary, 4.5 hours, but there's also a short version published by National Geographic. Surviving Everest is the title. Surviving Everest. There are so many interviews of Messner, Edmund Hillary, and some of the Sherpas who also climbed the mountain. Edmund Hillary, he climbed Mount Everest 5 times. He's asked a question that how did you feel when you set foot on the summit of Mount Everest as the first human being ever to be on the top of the mountain? Edmund Hillary says, it is not the mountain you conquer yourself. He was told that there are deaths happening, crevices opening, people falling in, losing their lives. It's so dangerous. Avalanches happening left, right, center. And there's no guarantee that you come back alive on your expedition to Mount Everest, the summit. And how is it that you have gone there 5 times? It is not the mountain you conquer yourself. Each of us need to introspect and think of our own lives. Are we so fast in our pace to get to the top and leaving the real things to be thought about in life behind? Attitude can help majestically to rebuild our lives as they should be. As I mentioned, all these great people like Nelson Mandela, Lord Rama, Arthur Ashe, Edmund Hillary, they are people that we should look up to. And you may have your own favorites as well. But look at their lives. How have they built those relationships? How have they conducted themselves with people? How have they faced situations in life which have been adverse? It may not be something that they even envisaged in life, and yet they've been very, very happy, and they've gone to the top. Attitude determines altitude. That is why it's very important for us on a daily basis to spend some time thinking of what we actually are here for. As I mentioned earlier, that careers, ambitions are great. Money, wealth, fame, status, everything is perfect. I'm not saying don't go for it, but let's walk towards all that with the right attitude. That the people we interact with, it may be your boss, maybe your employee, how are you working with them? How are you talking with them? How do you see them? They may be annoying, but can we forgive? They may not be able to do the work that you set for them, but are you able to help them? These are things that we should actually be thinking about, even at home, with our friends, with our relatives, colleagues. our bosses, even a simple person, your barber. When you go for a haircut, how do you behave with him or her? It's very important to make one person happy, one person smile a day. That is a great achievement. That is priceless, worth more than billions and trillions of dollars. Attitude can go a long, long way in our lives. Pramukh Sai Maharaj, our spiritual leader, whose centenary we will be celebrating next month here at the Mississauga International Center. And on behalf of the lead Sant of Canada, I'd like to invite all of you to that centennial celebration. The reason why I mention him is that Pramukh Sai Maharaj has been regarded by the Reader's Digest as well as the Guinness Book of World Records as the 20 most influential people on this earth. The reason why he was so influential was that he had a very good, perfect spiritual life. He often used to say, "In the joy of others lies our own." That whatever you do in your life, every single second, try and bring joy to another person. I know big companies, they have great enemies. That's what's to be done on a company level. But can we bring joy to all the people with us and beneath us? Pramukh Sai Maharaj, once he received a chitti, a very small chit, and the writing were unreadable. He had to read it many times just to see exactly what that person had written to him. And he saw that this person was requesting Pramukh Swami to help his son in his education. So Swami Shri, he passed this little letter onto another Swami and told him that, look into this and we need to help the son. The Swami read the chitti and he saw that it's from this mad person, he's a crackho. So he tells Pramukh Swami that, Swami, look, don't worry. This guy's a madman. Once he phones me telling me that I'm at this bus stand. Which bus do I pick? This is at 2 a.m. in the morning. Which bus do I pick to go home? So Swami, he's a madman, just leave him aside. You don't have to worry about this. Pramukh Sai Maharaj says, to you, the man may be mad, but his son may not be mad. Help him. So that son had to go into detail, ask the son what he wanted. Tuitions were arranged for him on the Sanstha's funds. He was educated. Today, he's in Fort McMurray as an engineer, earning $200,000 a year. A single gesture of help. When one person was not convinced to help, Pramukh Swami said, his son needs help, help him. In the joy of others lies our own. How much can be achieved through simple gestures like this? We can really make a huge difference in the lives of thousands of people, if not thousands, at least our family, at least the people we work with on a daily basis, all the people we meet in our lives. How can we make that difference? Having a very positive attitude, having an attitude which will make a difference. Pramukh Sai Maharaj, many of you may know that we have a huge temple in London, Neasden, that's being visited by so many dignitaries, VIPs, even now the King Charles. He was then Prince Charles, Princess Diana. She also visited the mandir. And it's been a record-breaking mandir, built for 1,000 years, which is there to sustain Hindu culture, Hindu traditions, Hindu rituals. And hundreds of thousands of people have visited that place in the last 25 years. Neasden Mandir, the story, again, long story short, we had seen more than 50 to 60 different pieces of land to construct that mandir. And everywhere was a cross. We found this wonderful piece of land in Harrow, 6 acres, and then the government Initially, they said we can build, and then there was a petition against it, and then they denied us permission. Every single devotee for so many years had put their blood, sweat, and toil into this. And then hearing of this denial, of this no permission, everyone's heart had just gone down. The morale had broken. Everyone had lost hope. Pramukh Sai Maharaj just wrote this one letter to those thousands of people telling them that do not lose heart. God may wish to be somewhere else, maybe not at that land. We will acquire a piece of land where God will it to happen. And the Neasden land then came into action. Now, Neasden as an area is like an area that is third grade. Even Winston Churchill, once when he passed by, the only thing he did was to flicker his cigar and the ashes fell on the floor. People regarded Neasden as a third, suburb, not, appreciated by people. Today, thousands and thousands of people, they throng to Neasden. But to say what a difference one letter can make, giving hope, giving courage. You yourself not losing heart, not being discouraged, but when you can bring people, to a climax of hope, in the joy of others lies our own. So we actually are individuals who have a responsibility to bring joy to as many people as we can in our lives. Pramukh Sai Maharaj, he did that, and that is why he was revered as one of the greatest spiritual leaders of Bharat Desh. Today, again, before I end, with one single thought, that after hearing all this, you may feel that it may be very tough for us to change our mindsets, our perspectives to life, and our very attitudes of life. But William James, the father of psychology in America, who was a well-renowned philosopher and a great psychologist, he has said that the greatest discovery of any generation, is that a man can change his life by changing the attitude of his mind. A man can change his life by changing the attitude of his mind. So each and every one of us, we can change for the better. I'm not saying everyone's bad. You're all wonderful people. But we can become even better. All we need to do is to change the attitude of our mind. Like Nelson Mandela, let's learn to tolerate and forgive. Let's learn to see good. Let's learn to become those that can work in harmony with anyone, anywhere, all the time. Like Arthur Ashe, not question the doings of God, but to keep faith, have spirituality, and keep going in the midst of even our most shattering and devastating events of life. Like Lord Rama, our family is our family. Let's keep our family unified. Let us love our family more than we love ourselves. So these are the things that we actually need to do in our lives. And we can do that if we change the attitude of our mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. That was really insightful. So many important takeaways. I think we have all learned how important family is for us and to preserve that. Also, how important is attitude in our lives. Much more important than aptitude, and that will determine what altitude you're going to achieve. Also, it's, you really have to conquer yourself and your own fears rather than conquering the mountain to reach a particular summit that you want to be. And resonating Pramukh Swami Maharaj's message that in the joy of others lies our own. And to me in particular, I think I need to forgive a lot of people. There's a big list, including those who I cursed while on the way here on the Gardener. So thank you, Swamiji. Thank you so much. Now I invite Dr. Raj Mantra, our past chairman and treasurer, to hand over a memento to Swamiji. Can I ask everyone to kindly stand up and give a standing ovation to Swamiji? Well, that was really a blessing. Let me now call upon a young member of our board, Mr. Udit Gupta, to continue with our next event.
Sorry, I'm stealing the mic from Udit. Thank you so much, Swamiji, for your wonderful session. And a quick announcement, we have executives from BIPOC and around 20 members have already registered for their session at 3:15 in the Bank of Ottawa meeting room. But they have still capacity, so I would request if anybody is interested, our board members are sitting here, or you can contact any of us, and we will put on to you another room, so they have people who you could. It's a good opportunity to make use of their time and their skill sets. So please reach out to us so that you can make use of their time. Thank you. Over to you, Udit.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks, Tanmay. And thanks, Swamiji. Luckily, last week I got an opportunity to meet Swamiji in person. I share some concerns with him here in Canada. I was just worried about how I can take care of my kids and how I can inculcate my religion or some good thoughts or good things about the parenting or how to look towards your parents into my kids. So Swamiji was very gratitude, and he helped me a lot, and he told me certain things which I can do for my kids. To imbibe my culture, to how I can imbibe my religion into them, which can help them to be of a great mind over here. So thank you, Swamiji. And on the lighter note, I will just like to share one of my experience in my past. So there are two kinds of a speaker. What I personally believe is, so one are the who are born with the natural speaking skills, and another are the one to whom the audiences make them. So over here, I like to share, like in India, I'm supposed to, in India, there is some kind of a training which every one of us is supposed to do at ICAI. So one of our chairmen came to me when I was working with Deloitte Kuala Lumpur. Over there, he mentioned to me that if you can share your experiences with the newly chartered accountants there, it will be a great. So it was a small room. When I came for the first time, it was my first training session when I went there. So over there, it was a small room, and there were 10 students over there. And it was very easy for me, like I was able to speak at least for an hour with them. Then in my next session, to my surprise, when I was invited over there, I saw that it was a big auditorium and there were 300 kids sitting over there, 300 chartered accountants. And it was complete a surprise for me. And I'm telling you from experience, it's not easy to be standing over here and to speak to everyone. So it's really scary, it's really scary. So in the morning itself, I called Vivek that I won't be able to speak. I won't be able to go on the desk. But then Vivek was like, okay, you figure it out yourself. I don't know. I went to each of my board member that if anyone can go on my behalf. Then, but nobody was able to support me. But so then I thought, then it remembered me that time when I was facing 200, 300 kids, all our chartered accountants who were facing at me. And it started like, I started with 2 sentences, 3 sentences, and I completely went blank. And when I completely went blank, there was applause, there was a claps from the audiences. After 30 seconds, even I was wondering why they are clapping. But yes, that was a motivation. And from there, I picked up again. And in every time, what I personally believe is the 3 minutes, 4 minutes are very difficult. But once you're over there, once the 3-4 minutes are done, you are comfortable. And secondly, what have helped me is like wherever I go, like it's a 5 years back. It's 5 years. I have never been on this stage. I have never been on stage. And that was the first time when I came over there. Like then I started speaking. Like then after I had many sessions, and it was like for 4 hours or for 8 hours. But then I was comfortable. But it was 5 years back I'm talking about. But again, after 5 years, I was facing the same issue. But I'm happy. I came over here. I speak in front of you. And I'm still feeling with time, with each second, I'm feeling there is a confidence in me. There is a confidence in me, and you have been. So here I want to say, like there are 2 kinds of one are the born speakers and one which audience makes. And for me, it's the second one. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. And when I was sitting, I was just looking. Everyone was very cheerful, and everyone was very supportive. Everyone was listening to the speaker. So that is how I thought, okay, let's give it a try. But yes, again, when I was coming up, my legs were shaking. but things are much better now. Thank you. Thanks all of you. Coming to our next session, it's next in line. It's about the management games, it's about the career advancement and beyond performance. It will be done by Andrew Enjoy, President and CEO of Peto McCallum, and it will be supported by Jude Singh, VP of Finance, will be presenting it. Can we play AV for Andrew Enjoy? Andrew Enjoy, and can you please come on this stage with Jude Singh?
Andrew Enjode, President and CEO, Peto McCallum Limited. A fellow chartered accountant from India, MBA from the Ivy Business School, CPA CA Canada, Andrew is a recipient of the George Weston Executive of the Year Award and the International Leader Outstanding Performer Award from the ICAI. In addition to leading and transforming the Peto Group as President and CEO, he has also served on various committees of the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, including being the lead governor from 2018 until 2022. Judy Singh, Vice President, Finance and Administration, Peto McCallum Limited. CPA CMA Canada, Masters in Mathematics and Finance from University of Toronto, Judy is one of the directors of the Peto Group of companies. Unprecedented levels of staff engagement at the 66-year-old employee-owned company led by her translated to Peto's recognition as Canada's top 100 SME companies for 3 consecutive years. Judy's customized case study writing skills helped develop on-demand new material to empower and train staff to handle evolving business challenges and retain competitive advantage.
Thanks a lot. Please welcome Andrew and Jude Singh. Please. So these are not detachable. We have to. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's try and keep this as simple as possible. And I've got an interesting question for you. All of us know Newton's third law of motion. Has anyone ever understood the first law of motion? Newton's first law? What's Newton's first law of motion? Any takers? That's a third. Pardon? Law of inertia. Exactly. So you're in the state of an inertia or in constant movement unless and until compelled by an external force. So that's what happens for most of us in our careers. That being said, what happens is there's nothing bad to feel about it. Most people feel my skills are underutilized. I can do this much better than my boss. Face it, there's nothing wrong about feeling like that. But what does it take to win in the trenches? It's more easily said. It's given that you have to have the professional credentials or the technical skills required to perform your job or to lead your group. But that being said, how do you emerge as a leader? How do you build or take your career trajectory forward? Remember, one of the most important things that has now come out than ever before following the COVID-19, uncertainty is the only certainty in your career trajectory. There's anything called permanency. Even your strategy is very short-lived. There are so many external factors that determine what happens, how it happens. So for you to be a successful leader, for you to develop that skill, what is given is your technical capabilities to do what you're supposed to do. What you require to do is build up that image or build up that acceptance from the group that you lead. If they believe in the leader, they believe in your vision, and you'll be successful in your task. Now, this is the theory. How do you do it in practice? It's very normal for us as we dress up, we look at the mirror, we adjust ourselves. Everybody, man and woman, all of us do it. Yet when it comes to perceptions about us in other people's mind, we never do that. We avoid it. And an answer for that is very simple. You don't want to hear anything that you don't like to hear. And the person whom you ask for an opinion is very reluctant to be honest. They want to tell you only what you would like to hear or try to keep it as vague as possible. In those conditions, how do you get that feedback? That's very critical. And that, to a large extent, determines how far you go, because like the way you dress or you change your attire or whatever you do with your dress up, so also you try to fine-tune your whole approach to leadership to make sure that the group or the team that you lead accepts it. I'm here with my colleague Judy Singh, who's quite an expert in case study writing as well as coaching. She's been through a lot of these things and made sure that most of us have at Pedo been able to succeed. See, one of the key things is our main asset is our human resources. We are a 100% employee-owned organization where our staff have come, grown with us, and leave, but the organization continues. And there's no one single leader, no one single owner. It's owned by the employees. So the employees are the biggest assets. So how the employees turnover affects or impacts the organization does not need further amplification. You all can guess it. In that situation, we need to motivate our staff. We need to get them to see the vision. If they believe in you, they believe in the vision that you're portraying, they work with you together. Over to you, Judy. Start off from now and tell us what you plan to do for this afternoon.
Okay, so we actually have a case study, but before we actually get into the case study, we will do a little management game. It's based on the game Minefield, which I'm sure most of you are aware of or have probably played it. And we just kind of adapted it and changed it a little. So we calling it Minesweeper. Okay, so we will have probably maybe 3 or 4 teams. You will be competing against each other. Within each team, the team decides on who will be the minesweepers and who will be the guides. Okay, so the minesweepers will be blindfolded, and they basically will be guided to collect certain objects. And the objects obviously have a different number of points assigned. So we'll probably give it maybe 10 to 15 minutes, and the team that finishes with the most points in that amount of time obviously is the winner. And then after that, we will just go through the case, and we'll see what you learned from the game and how it applies to the case. Okay? So I would need 3 volunteers just to help set up. Okay? Oh, I have 2. 3. Okay. We also need to divide the rest of the group into teams. So
Why don't we start off from the further corner by just calling out
1, 2,
1,
3,
2,
4.
3, and then start off. The next person start off as 1, 2, 3. Gentlemen, that is a very last hint.
No, no. So, yeah. Okay, you go ahead. Okay. Just remember your numbers, don't forget.
That's exactly what we didn't want to avoid. Okay, we make it simple.
All ones there?
All the ones to the right, please. 2 to the center and 3s to the corner.
Let me get the blindfold.
What do you want to do? You want to set
Okay.
the rules for them? Or what do
Yeah.
you-
So once they
Yeah, go ahead.
once they're in the
क्या
So the maximum number of minesweepers, those are the ones who will be blindfolded, would be 4.
Judy, 1 minute. Can we have everyone's attention for a moment, please? Okay, Judy will go over the rules and explain the game very quickly. I know it's already been done, just to make sure there's a uniform understanding. See, sometimes communication gets distorted across borders. We just got to make sure. We just got to make sure that it's uniform. So here we go.
Okay, so the maximum number of minesweepers would be 4. Minimum number, you don't have to have 4. Minimum number would be 2. Okay, you decide within your group who will be the minesweepers. In terms of the guides, the maximum number of guides would also be 4, and you need a minimum number of 2 who would be giving guiding the minesweepers. Everybody else can, help, even if they have to collect the object from the person, but they're not allowed to. If you're not a minesweeper, you're not allowed to pick up the object unless a minesweeper gives it to you. Okay?
Okay, moving on. I think there's some imbalance in the number count. Can those team members just start 1, 2, 3 among yourself? Full, go to the number. It looks to be disproportionate there as opposed to the 2s and the 3s. I don't know if people made themselves across. Mantraji, you start 1, 2. How many of you, the number count there, how many do you have?
Okay.
How many number count we have here, please, in the 2s? 3s, number count. 30. The visual, see, there was some migration. There was an issue there. Okay. How many? 21? If we did tell the numbers 1, 2, 3, and it was fairly clear, how did 30 become 1s, 21 2s, and 16 3s? You are 21 and your guys are 16. 20. You are 15. They are 30, double the quantity. And they are, see, that's the problem in being an accountant. Yeah, get some more of your friends who have made their way there. Guys, volunteer yourself. At least 3 or 4 of you come. Otherwise, it's imbalance. We have too many people this side, too few people that side. Oh, it should be a cross-migration, please. Okay. Maybe, Mantraji, you or somebody else want to volunteer there? To the 3rd group, please. 2, please. Everyone make sure that he has a partner with him as he or she makes their way across. That's interesting.
I think we still have more there. Maybe Akhil, you can go there. Go to number 3.
Okay. So the numbers are what the numbers are. Now there should be a little more evenly balanced situation. How do they play the game, Judy? Explain it to them.
Okay, so I need all of the minesweepers blindfolded because they can't see where we're going to place the objects.
The volunteers don't interfere. Let this group decide among itself who's going to be the minesweeper, who's going to be the guide, how are they going to run it. They take a decision, they do what they want to do. Can we have the volunteers back, please? Can we have the volunteers return back, please? Were you the volunteer there, man?
No. Actually, if I could have the minesweepers face the back wall.
There appears to be some confusion. Let's repeat. 1, 2, 3, all the three teams are separate. You need to have, for this entire team, now let's take team 3 as a sample. For the entire team, they need to have a minimum of 2 minesweepers or more. Maximum of 4. Similarly, they need to have how many guides? 2 guides and a maximum of? So 2 or 4. That's for the entire group. Would that be fair? What do the others do?
The others, they can either somehow help or if they want to jump in. And yes, no. If they want to jump in and help guide in any way, that's also acceptable.
Okay. You cannot change the minesweepers after the game has started. Please make sure you don't do that. Okay. Make sure it's played well because it's something quite interesting that you can find out in the process. Okay. All the minesweepers, can you please come down here, please? With the blindfold. Have to be guided. Can somebody guide them? Yeah, the 4 minesweepers, can you please come here? Yeah, you can just fall straight. Just find your team also. Yeah.
Just keep walking, keep walking, keep walking.
They just made it more interesting by first blindfolding and then conflict. Abhilasha, pick up a pack. Any package and तीनों teams का कहीं पे भी जाके कुछ रखना है.
Okay, who's the volunteer working in that section? It's you from.
She just has to put one thing there, right?
No, she can put few of that here as well. What's the different colors?
Jody said just one item.
One, what I do.
Okay, so one item per
Location.
per team. Yeah. Yeah. You know, this pack is a pack, so like that. Okay, this is the one with the Lucknow packer. So you have to place. I have 2 partners. इसमें 2 लोग आए हैं.
goes together as one.
Yes.
Okay, and then we can put our units there.
That in this, with this, there's another bag here for that. Yeah. Okay, so this one, put a thing. Towel with this one, a stick. Yeah, because it's one for each team. No, the others took it already.
Where are they? Then why is for this team?
Okay. You put one.
This one plus this one.
Yeah. So you're gonna put it one, right? Like one each team.
Okay.
Okay, so I put this and come.
Yeah, wherever you want to. Yes, they're going to. No, because we still have to do another.
Okay, Julia, they're ready.
She's done?
Yeah. Julia, that's enough. After 3 minutes, go ahead, get the game started.
Yeah, let's get
Okay, can we have the minesweepers go back to the respective zones, please? 1 to that corner, 2 to this, and 3rd to the other one. Don't take off your blinding, please.
Just put it in my bag.
this one too?
Team 3, go the other side.
We're
Okay, so turn to the.
two, no?
No, you're two or you're two go here, two here. Okay, Jody, get the game started.
Okay. So the guides should lead the minesweepers. There are various Lego blocks, and so all the green blocks are with 5 points, and the red blocks are with 3 points. Some of the blocks are like the minesweeper would have to kind of take them apart. Okay, so the guide would have to, let them know. Okay, so we can start.
That is the whole search.
The glow sticks are worth the most.
Yeah, the guides will have to
Okay.
lead the minesweepers to the object without touching or without taking them, physically lifting and giving it to them. That's the whole idea. Search for the guides, look for the objects and find out where they are.
Yeah, the glow sticks are worth the most. 10 points.
The glow sticks are worth 10 points.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, Judy, can they start or how does it all go?
Yeah, they can all start. I'm starting it now.
Yeah, start now, please. Other than the guides and the minesweepers, the rest can you watch from the side, please? Other than the guides and the minesweepers, can the rest back off? The guides and the minesweepers only on the floor. You stay in your territory, please. I see more people than what is required there. Only the guides and the minesweepers are supposed to be there. Yeah, give it to Judy.
No, move to your left, 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 left. Yeah. Keep walking left. Now keep walking straight, straight, straight.
To get the place cleaned. You could drop garbage and have them pick it up. That's much more easy.
Time limit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think we are giving more time.
Nothing to chance, my friend.
I have it on my watch.
Well, if there's nothing else, that's all you're done. That's interesting. Okay. Pick up what you can. That's all I can. Is all I can say. That's supposed to demark between the two areas. That's all. That's two. This is one. The tape is not a part of it.
Sida, sida, sida.
You can't go this far. He's in. That's which way is he? Team 1, 2, or 3?
Okay, so we have to find
Find it in your own team. Find out if there's any more. We'll do the count.
And what else? What else was it? Blue stick. Tape. Not the tape. Not the tape.
It's a disaster, but let's wrap it up. Okay. We'll wrap it up at least. You get straight for the case. Okay, guys. We are running to the end of the time, please.
And everything.
Teams, get back to your place. The minesweepers can have their eyes taken off.
Yeah. I think, what's it, team 3?
Team 3.
Team 3 actually got all their props, yeah.
Team 3. Yeah.
Just dump it all on here because
Okay, guys. Can I have you all go back to your respective chairs and sit down, please? Bring your submission.
they can, yeah, you can remove your blind. This one is a little.
Okay, guys, can I have everyone go back to your respective seats, please? As you are, just sit down wherever you are, team 1, 2, 3. Team 1, can I have the attention of team 1, please? Guys, team 1, can I have the attention of you guys? No. There were a few of you participating. There were a few of you watching, and a few of you were listening, smiling. Who do you believe was the most active participant, or whom would you recognize as a leader in your group. Okay? Not because he or she is your friend, but because how he or she participated in whatever they did. Don't nominate the volunteer cannot be the one. The same applies to you guys, Team 2. You had a lot of people doing various things. There's one among you who was possibly the most impressive one, he or she, whatever they did. So could you nominate somebody from your end? And I think Team 3, I'm just repeating it, you heard me. So from among you, who was it who was the most active one but not the volunteer? We'll ask that of you shortly. No, not them. I'm talking about there were 3 volunteers who were working with Judy. Leave them out. There are others. Among the members of Team 2 or Team 1 or Team 3, whom did you feel was the most active one? Or whom do you felt, or which was the person you felt most gravitated towards or felt that was the leader you could look forward to? Okay? Before we go to that, we'll ask you that. I just wanted you to think about it. We'll ask you that very shortly. But let's go to the case, which is a very quick one. Can I have, Vivek, can we have the case be auto-read for us on the screen, please? Yeah. The case. The case we gave you. The electronic format of the case we gave you. You got hard copies. Oh, yeah. They were supposed to read it on the screen, right?
Okay, sorry. I have some handouts.
Yeah.
So the case will be read out on once we get it up. If the volunteers, I also have hard copies of it, so if they can hand them out. So there's 20 in each.
Okay.
Guys, as we get ready, I just wanted to share with you something very important. It's very difficult to do a management game or a case study in its truest or fullest form where you could get maximum value in a very quick environment like this. Okay? So it's a short time to have some takeaways and to make sure that you get the subtle or the salient features of it is very difficult. Now, for example, this case, we have done a précis of what was the original case. We use all this at all our times in our training. This actually is a 5-page case. We had to summarize it and bring it down. Otherwise, we would be spending the whole day on it. But the key thing is, quite a few of these things are like your live demo. There are enough takeaways, and most of these are real-life situations. We link them, and we get them to get you to understand. It's because most of the books or the textbooks and everything, or your articles that come in the print media, on the internet, everything has got all sorts of theories as to what you could do. But what does it take finally for you to be what you are? How do you make it happen? That is the big challenge. There is a gap. It's not called a knowledge gap, but an execution gap. From where you are, you know you can do it, but how do you actually get it done? And that's what we focus on, or that's one of our key factors that we do in our training. We do notice real-life disasters where we have situations crop up. We, of course, protect individual identities. We build a case on it. We build the guidance. We provide the insights as to what we could do. As what I told you at the start of this whole discussion, Vivek, whenever you're ready, let us know, and I will immediately cut off. As I told you at the start of this, one of the most important things is how do you inspire your team as your leader? As we heard Swamiji talk, one of the key things is your attitude. It's very relevant for those who put that together. There's nothing religious about it. It's just basic common sense. If you can walk the talk, talking is very easy. You can give all sorts of advice to everybody, but how much of that advice can you actually execute is a key issue. Now, if you could do what you're telling and people watch you or observe you, there's a good chance that you will have your own vision believed by others. It could be a small task. It could be a 2-member team trying to sort out, let's say, most of you are from the accounting background, let's say a reconciliation or a finalization or preparing for an audit or whatever that is. How do you convey that? How do you get that? There are a lot of people who will give you theoretical advice, but very few who can inspire with action. And for that to happen, you should have the honesty in fitting on. You ready? Okay. So they don't have a reader? Judy, you want to do the reading quickly?
Okay, so we call this case career advancement introspection. It has been 6 months since Tom committed to leading a team of professionals and technicians to rebuild the business in an existing geographic region. The previous head had moved over to competition, and the business environment had become extremely competitive. At this time, Tom believed that his great plan would deliver stellar performance, and he would do it if he received a hefty salary increase and a new title that would reflect the importance of the job. A bit on Tom's profile. He has professional credentials with considerable experience in industry and public accounting. He's involved in an unrelated business outside of work. He's very active on LinkedIn and frequently reposts Harvard Business Review articles and ideas. And he has ambitions to play a senior leadership role in the firm which he joined 5 years ago. A background of the organization. It's a mid-sized, employee-owned, knowledge-based, in business for over 60 years. It's facing an extremely competitive market with declining sale price points and an ever-increasing input costs, which are mainly salaries. Succession planning at the company requires promoting from within. Tom's career trajectory. So he had initial challenges doing original work independently and had to be transferred to a structured environment in a supervisory role. As part of the career advancement protocol, he was offered opportunities to showcase his skills. He conducted 6 training sessions for young professionals and other senior technical staff at the company. Turnout for the first session was high, but it soon dwindled, and the interest was more on the prizes that could be won than on the material Tom was presenting. Furthermore, the technical head on more than one occasion cringed at the technical flaws in the material that Tom had provided. Younger staff found the sessions irrelevant, and senior staff felt that their skills and experience went unrecognized, with them playing only a token role in the sessions. Another opportunity presented itself. A leadership void was left in an area upon the departure of a senior manager in one location. Tom was thrilled when he was requested to help out and immediately felt he could now put into practice the ideas learned from reading the Harvard Business Review. However, within a short period of time of Tom taking on this assignment, several experienced staff resigned, unhappy. Clients began complaining of late deliverables and inadequate or sloppy field work by staff. In fairness, many issues were left by his predecessor, but Tom struggled to size up any of the challenges. So it was a new issue at every stage. Often, he would delegate to other staff, senior staff, without knowing the problem or the staff capability, and without regard for project budgets. Client complaints and budget overruns were exasperated. His single explanation to senior management was that it was a unique situation. At the same time, his desire to be seen as a leader continued unabated. He moved forward attempting to implement strategies from his HBR readings. One of them was unilaterally issuing a directive to split the department into teams under certain senior technicians who were responsible for training and mentorship. This was done without the approval of senior management and to the surprise of the technicians. Tom appeared oblivious to the disaster that was emerging. The situation became worse than ever before. There was dissatisfaction at all levels, both inside and outside the organization. Meanwhile, Tom continued to espouse leadership jargon. So what went wrong was the question on Tom's mind as well as the management team's mind as well.
Interestingly, everything starts off with good faith. You believe you can do things and you can deliver. And when you actually are given the task, problems crop up. How do you deal with it? How ready are you? And how ready are those who gave you the task? Less said, better. I'm sure some of you know or have experienced such challenges. So to make a long story short, what we're going to do is we're going to draw, time is not by our side, so we're trying to cut down. We're coming straight to the point. We're not diving deep into what Tom happened or what's management's decision. It's a fairly large case which went on for a long time. We had a lot of success and people took a lot of takeaways. Judy is going to summarize and correlate the case with the games that we played. Go ahead, Judy.
Okay. The first, I guess, point and the similarity between the game and the case. That was, it was unstructured and it was a divergent group. So we didn't allow, people to choose who they wanted to be in their team. Okay, and that's, I guess, one of the, what would happen in real life. You don't always get to choose who your team members are or who you're going to be leading. The next one was when you had to choose who the leader was, who the guides were, who was going to be the minesweepers. So, an important, how did the person or the individuals convey their aspirations for leadership, and how were the leaders selected? And I think Andrew had asked that question before we actually started the game. So maybe if we just have team one start off.
Okay, team one, can somebody summarize what happened in your group as to who was deciding, how did it go? Did all of you participate or did only some of you emerge? And why did you choose whom you chose to lead? The volunteer cannot participate in that. The volunteer is just a support service to help us. So from among you guys, how did it all come up? Who decided who's going to be the minesweeper, who's going to be the guide, and what's going to happen and how it's going to be done? And that leads us to the next question. From among you, how did you decide, or who do you felt was the best performer in your group? Go ahead.
So I think we were very open on that. So we gave everybody an option. So who wants to be the minesweeper and who wants to be the guide? So I think 4 people volunteered for the minesweeper, and similarly 4 people volunteered for the guide as well. So once that was decided, so we actually formed 4 teams, separate 4 teams. Like I was a minesweeper myself, so I got 1 guide, and similarly 4 minesweepers got 4 guides respectively. Once we were into the game. So we were just, following the directions of our guide, and actually it helped a lot. So yeah, that was a strategy. As simple as that.
So I think it was a team effort, and everyone just focused on their own strengths and volunteered accordingly. For example, I was a guide because I thought that I can give directions well, and some people were minesweepers because they thought they could take directions well. So it was a team effort, and yeah.
To add anything from this group? Yeah, so you were only talking of a team effort. Can you imagine running a business with a team effort? There are a dozen of people at the CEOs. What will happen?
He or she is a part of a team.
They are a part of the team, but there's always got to be a team leader, right?
I think our leader did the job very well when she came initially and explained us the game. So the volunteer.
So she took over as the CEO of the group. Would that be a fair statement? Okay, she hijacked it. Okay, that's good. That's fine. So you really never had anybody emerge as a leader who would give directions to the others and take on anything. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm sure there are many of you who would have thought you could have done a better job, or I could have done this. It's human. Let's not feel shy about it. Why did we not talk about it? I'm just using you as an example. You could have felt in your mind, I'm just to highlight the point. You could have felt, I could have done this better if I was telling them who's to do what. Why did you not volunteer and tell the group, My friends, now let's go together and let's do this. Why?
Yeah, even though I had participated, but yeah, if I frame that question for me, like because of I may have a like doubt that I could do better if I have not participated because I have not in that situation. I have not faced that practically. So yeah, theoretical, I feel that yeah, I would have done it.
I love the way you're being diplomatic, but you're not being honest. Let me come to that. Okay. Team 2, what about you guys? How did it all emerge? How did you decide among yourself who's going to lead, what's going to do, and did anybody try to take control? Did anybody try to lead, singly, the coordination? Teamwork. There we go. A lovely North American phrase. We beat it to death. Teamwork. Participation, participative management. Tell me, where does it work? It never works. That's the theory. So who decided on the minesweepers? Who decided? I'm sure there are among you somebody who thought, or at least a few of you, or who knows, everybody thought I could do this better. I could take control of this and I can tell others what to do. Oh, that's excellent. We volunteered. Okay. What else? Did anybody feel... Mantraji, did you not feel that you could take control of it and tell them what to do? A does that, B does that, C does that. Why didn't you do that? I'm just using you as an example, not that you wanted to do it. I'm driving home a point. I'm not criticizing anybody. Please get me correct. Why did you not? I'm assuming you had that capability, but you still were reluctant to tell, group, listen to me, let's do it like this. Why were you reluctant? Or why were the others like you who felt so reluctant? There we go. He's got retirement while active participation. Go ahead. Yes.
People were already given roles. They were already in the role of the guide, and they were in the role over there. So who am I to step into their role?
My dear friend, in real life, do they call you when they set up a department or a company and say, would you like to lead there? 9 out of 10 times you go and jump into something that's already existing. Yes, please.
So I think for us, we were given a task to put blindfolds. 4 of us will be blindfolded, and then 4 of us are going to be guided.
Agreed.
And that was it. There was no structure. There was nothing said. So people were, skeptical about taking the job.
Skeptical. I love that word. Tell me, why were you skeptical?
Because we didn't know what needs to be done after that. So whether we will be able to do it or not.
Okay. I'll come to you again. She's being very diplomatic, politically correct, but not honest. Okay. You guys.
I think
Huh?
the reason that there wasn't a team effort,
Huh?
it's completely my opinion. We didn't know the group at all. So
That's real life.
I did not know who has which capability.
Perfect.
No, I couldn't gauge anybody's strength or anything. So it was free volunteering. Whosoever could just volunteer, they did. Rest of them were spectators because there wasn't any cohesion in the group. We weren't collected with one kind of thing to solve or an aim. So we did not know anybody. So the first task would be to knowing who could do what.
She'll perfectly work. A plus B is equal to C, then she'll fix in the numbers. But that's the real problem. You really never get it in life, right? When you walk into an organization, when you walk into a group, you join a team, whatever capacity it is, you meet all strangers and you learn over a period of time. How do you emerge? Yes, sir. Okay. Great. You were doing that, or was anybody else doing?
I would have done something differently if I were involved in the exercise, is that probably told them to first look for the objects. People who were not the guide, people who were not guiding or were not the minesweepers, they would actually look for the the objects first. And then when they would know where what is, then they could tell the guys, okay, here
Yeah.
here are the objects, and then they could
Over.
do the exercise.
Great. I'm running short of time, so let me sum it up. One of the biggest problems is all of us as human beings are a bit reluctant to be seen as somebody who wants to take the lead or who wants to be seen as the show-off who knows everything. That's human. We try to be a little reluctant to do it. There are two key issues that I want to point out to you. If you really have got to be a successful leader, first and foremost, you got to understand who you are, what type of personality you have, and how you will be able to deliver your leadership. Understanding that is very, very important. There's no time for it. We're going to give you, we have circulated this in the past. There's something called a leadership wheel. We'll give it to you. You work on it by yourself. You'll get an understanding of understanding you as who you are and what you are in group dynamics. That's very critical. Unless you know who you are and what you are, your attitude cannot be fixed or you cannot work in group settings. The second most important thing that I touched upon at the start of this, and again I'm telling you, which is very critical, is getting feedback. Feedback is the most difficult thing because nobody wants to give negative feedback. They'll say everything is fine because politically correct statements they want to make. But there are techniques called 360-degree feedback, 360 feedback and stuff of that nature, whereby you cast a wide net, you get people to, under controlled conditions where there is a sense of assurance of confidentiality, provide you structured feedback on specific questions. Now, what happens in that is you get the privacy of knowing those whom you deal with, your teams and your stakeholders, how they view you. So irrespective of where you are, especially if you're in a career and looking for advancement, that is something very important that you need to know. People are reluctant to tell you how bad you are, or you're not dressed properly, or you lack this, or you lack that. But when you get this type of confidential feedback, which is kind of summarized, not intended to make you feel bad or make you feel good, they give you a generalized summary format from the respondents. Now, to get an honest feedback, obviously don't select your sample and make sure that you get the answer you want. Cast a wide net, everything is done confidentially. It's available on a web-based, internet-based solution. There's a small fee to it. Several providers are there. We are not recommending anything, but this tool is available. If you really want to advance in your career, you want to grow up in your profession, whatever you're doing, get that feedback from a wide net that you cast so that that feedback helps you model and shape who you are. Judy, you have anything else you want to say?
No, I think one of the groups has been asking who won and what do they get.
Interesting. Okay, we'll have to be honest on that. We initially thought of something, we'll just change it. We'll give one prize for each group. So we ask each of the groups to nominate one individual, and that individual whom you have nominated, now don't change the nomination until I tell the prize. Okay, group 3, whom did you nominate from among you? Stand up, please. Oh, you can't. Volunteers can't. Somebody else. Group 2, whom did you guys decide? And group 1, just get up, whoever the person is. Okay, great. So we'll give you a contact number. We'll contact card, send an email to us. We'll give you a pair of hockey tickets, okay? We'll make all three. We were initially thinking between Raptors and hockey. So somebody of your choice, take them to a game. All of this is now done electronically. Am I correct?
Yes, they will have to download the app.
You'll have to download the app. We will send the information to you. So you'll get a pair of hockey tickets for a game that becomes available. No longer there are physical tickets. So we'll send it to you. Get in touch with Judy and we'll send it to you guys. Okay?
Yes.
Nominated by the group. Nominated by the group. See, the intent of this was not for a competition or for winning. There was nothing at stake except the fact. Yeah, we can. But honestly, we are running behind time. The next speaker, yeah, we can take all of this home. There's no problem at all.
People got 2 sticks. They got only 1.
Guys, I love the way you guys are doing it, but unfortunately, time is not by our side. We have to wrap up and be fair to the next gentleman who's going to talk after us. We took too much of your time. My apologies, sir, and we'll move on.
If anybody wants the leadership wheel, we have a pamphlet compiled, so you can just see.
I strongly recommend those of you who have not done it before to take it. It's very interesting. You can do it by yourself. Do it when you want, and you will get some input out of it. Most important, understanding yourself, how you are under different conditions, which category you belong to. Remember, don't do it to appease anybody. Do it for your own self. That is the most important thing. Make yourself indispensable for your employer, for your business, not by holding back information, because then you become a nuisance. They want to get rid of you at the first chance. But more by being forthright and adding value at every stage. That's what made me what I am. I'm a career chartered accountant. I lead a team of engineers who do high complexity design for Ministry of Transportation, for all sorts of governments. We've been in business for 66 years. To be there without knowing engineering required me to, as well as Judy, to keep on upgrading our knowledge. So that's a very complex process, but you can do it if you want to. Thank you, guys. Sorry about that. I took more time than what was scheduled.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Judy, for the information talks. And here I would like to invite Mr. Sanjay Gupta to give a token of appreciation to Mr. Andrew and Mr. Judy. To Judy. To Andrew. I'd like to hand over mic to
Thank you, Udit. Good afternoon, everyone. Next in line is an informative session to learn about investments, the current challenges, and the new normal. We have seen a lot of volatility in the investment market in the last 12 months, which is imperative to listen about it from an industry expert. This session will be presented by Mr. Mohit Ralhan, who is the CEO of TIW Capital Group based out of Singapore. We'll play a short video which will offer a glimpse into his professional expertise and experience and achievements and set the context for the session. Can we have the AV video for Mr. Mohit, please?
Mohit Ralhan, CEO, TIW Capital Group, Singapore. Based in Singapore, Mohit has a professional career spanning across 2 decades, 6 funds, and multiple businesses. He is currently managing circa 225 million Singapore dollars asset under management with multi-asset, multi-geography buyout, and fixed returns funds with an investor spread across 27 countries. Awarded by the Economic Times as the most promising business leader of Asia for the years 2019 and 2020, Mohit has also been awarded by the CEO Insights magazine as one of the top 10 best chief investment officers in India for the years 2020 and 2021. Mohit Ralhan.
Your full attention to Mr. Mohit and help me in welcoming him to the virtual stage with a round of applause.
Greetings to everyone. Am I audible? Is it audible?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you. So greetings to everyone. I guess if you look at the last 12 months, as it was pointed, it has been extremely turbulent. So today's agenda at my end is to apprise you of how we see the global economy shaping up and why we believe that the 2020s are going to be a little more difficult than usual. Okay, so let's start with, just to set the context, TIW Capital Group has offices in Singapore, India, UAE, and Bahrain. We manage overall $225 million. However, we have 3 different business verticals. One is asset management. We also have a consulting business, and we also have a family office set up. To start with, I'd like to share some of these issues that are visible in the slide, and I'm sure each one of you have already known about these. However, what's really important to know that each of these issues were competent enough to create a recession in the last 100 years. Whether it was supply disruption in the late 1940s after World War II, whether it was commodity shock in the 1970s, persistency of high inflation in 58, 1981, geopolitical challenges, World War I, World War II, 1991, subprime default in 2008-9, quantitative tightening in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Move forward, please. So let's go to the slide where we have, So if you look at these issues, what's really important today, that all of them are converging together. While each of them were competent by themselves, the confluence of these issues is leading to significant complexities that are very difficult to be solved just by monetary policy alone. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to take you through two different case studies. We are going to time travel 100 years back and look at two case studies of 1930s and 1940s. While a lot of comparisons are being made to 1970s, it's very important to look at these two case studies, because after you see, I'm sure you all will be able to make up your mind whether we are heading towards a mild recession or is it more than that. So 100 years back in 1920, there was a Spanish flu, and post-flu, there was pent-up demand. This led to 500% increase in stock market, like Dow Jones went up 500%. So when after COVID 2020, the markets went up, it shouldn't have been a big surprise. The Dow Jones of 2020, of course, is NASDAQ, and it went up, the tech stocks basically went up 4-5 times. Now, US Fed was not very happy about it in the 1920s. On a lighter note, every recession has been driven through their policies. So what they did, I'm going to show you in a minute from now in the next two slides, but whatever they did led to a significant drop in Dow Jones. Pun was intended because they were not happy about the bubble. Mind you, in 1920, there were not too many people trading in stock markets. But what it led to as an outcome was beyond Dow Jones falling. It led to earnings decline, defaults, protectionism, and this was the genesis for World War II. And obviously what we saw is the largest recession. When recession gets extended, we call it depression. And when depression gets extended, it's called Great Depression. So we saw the Great Depression of 1930s, the largest in the modern history. Moving forward, let's look at what they did. So in a matter of 18 months, the interest rates were increased dramatically to the extent that they were tripled. And if you go back last year, Jackson Hole Symposium, Mr. Powell made two comments. Number one, he said that inflation is transitory. And number two, he said that the labor shortage is essentially again transitory. And both points, we know in hindsight, they were wrong. So I think 2022, this year was redemption time. And in this year's Jackson Hole Symposium, he made again two comments. Number one, he basically said that there's going to be pain. And number two, he said that the policies, the restrictive policies will continue for medium term. Now, what is the definition of pain? Economic standpoint, one is, of course, negative growth, we call it recession, but there is a second element of pain, which is unemployment. So typically in any recession, unemployment comes with a lag indicator. Why this is important? Because we are seeing a very serious dichotomy in global economy. And to us, the way we are seeing it, there is West and there is rest. So basically, we see US, Europe, and UK going through a significant recession or an extended recession because of this. In the 1930s, next slide, please, there was something more that was done. The monetary tightening, the so-called quantitative tightening, was bizarre. In a matter of no time, almost 31% reduction in money supply. When you print money, in last 10 years, there has been massive printing of money. obviously it worked wonders because it led to consumerism and it led to demand. But when the reverse happens, the same money is taken out from the system, obviously leads to significant drop in consumerism. So long story short, for a simple issue of stock market speculation, the solution which the US Fed came out was bizarre. And this led to 90% reduction in Dow Jones. Now we can always debate whether 90% was intended or not, but that's what happened. But it also led to unintended outcomes. I call them the bazookas. So basically business bankruptcies, high unemployment, mortgage default, greater than, almost more than 20% banks failed. This led to a 60% decline in world trade, which was the genesis of World War II. In effect, it led to destruction of aggregate demand. Let's fast forward to 1940s. In the 1940s, post World War II, there was pent-up demand. Post-COVID, if you look at it, again, there was pent-up demand. However, in the late 1940s, there was mistrust across nations, exactly like today. This led to a significant supply shock, exactly like today, and led to high inflation, exactly like today. However, the banks acted smart. The US Fed did not increase interest rates at that point of time. They only reduced the money supply. Whenever there is a reduction in money supply, it leads to a technical recession. However, the situation got addressed and within a few quarters, things were fine. And that was the base, it set the base basically for the next few decades of multi-decadal growth in US and in West. Now, let's time travel back to the current times. So if you look at in the current times, we saw a similarity to Spanish flu, which is COVID. We saw similarity to stock markets going up. However, there is one fundamental difference in 20s and today. In 20s, the World War I just ended. Right now, the conflicts are increasing. So this is where we believe the complexity is going up. Now, the entire issue today, which is of energy crisis and supply shock, is a diplomatic crisis. Essentially, it can be solved through diplomatic resolution. And with due respect, since advent of mankind, human beings haven't learned the art of managing diplomacy so well. So what's the way out? The only way out the central bankers globally are seeing is that if you can't solve the supply shock, then you have to destroy demand. And the only way to destroy demand is to keep increasing interest rates. And that's where the situation is fairly complex. Now, I'm going to move forward. I'm going to take examples of certain issues which we saw in the first slide. Now, why they are relevant, I'll explain. We all have seen and heard about supply chain disruption. But the point to really understand is that in the last 100 years, the number one economy and the number two economy were very far off. So number one was mostly US and the number two economy kept changing. Today, the number two economy, which is China, is very close to number one. A. B, it is the manufacturing hub of the planet. C, it is following zero COVID policy still. And D, the president is expected to get re-elected. All in all, this is going to lead to delay and further disruption in supply chain. Moving forward, we all know about the commodity issue, so I'm not going to harp on it. But the next slide is one of my favorite slides, labor shortage. The labor data, the jobs data came in US today, and it was extremely good data. So basically, there is a very serious labor shortage in the planet. Now, a lot of people are talking about it in terms of the unemployment being low, the wage bill going up. But what is the reason why it's happening? So let's understand that. Now, one of the biggest paradox of mankind is aging. We all age. When I joined as an analyst, of course, I didn't know anything much significant. And then as you grow and become CEOs, the wisdom you gain with experience curve tends to be significant, and one fine day we retire. So that's the biggest paradox of human life. However, beyond that, what COVID did, because of health concern, there was increase in labor shortage. Beyond that, immigration restrictions. A lot of developed markets, including in Singapore, we have seen work permits reduce dramatically over the last 3 years in absolute terms. So immigration restrictions is adding to the fire. On top of it, unemployment allowance, I call it disincentivization to work, which has been given in most, Western and developed economies, again is a big issue. And lastly, mandatory vaccines. Even in US, hardly 70%, have taken two shots. So all in all, this is leading to a very serious shortage of labor, which is reflecting in wage hikes, and we believe the wage hikes will continue for another 12 to 18 months. And that leads to basically persistency of high inflation. So the issue is never about inflation alone. The issue is about persistency of high inflation, and that's what we believe, because it is beyond just supply shortage and it's also driven by labor shortage. We believe this persistency is going to continue. Move forward, please. Now, this is another interesting slide. There are three kinds of war that are happening on the planet right now. The first war is Ukraine war, as we know. However, there's a second war, COVID war. If some of you know about China, China has actually been following a zero COVID policy. Till recently, one couldn't have traveled without quarantine to even Hong Kong. And there is a third issue, Cold War. Many nations are right now going through Cold War. Now, if you look at it, parts of the planet, take Southeast Asia, even developed markets like reasonably put across Japan, Singapore, Australia, Southeast Asia, developing markets like, some parts of Africa, some parts of Latin America, Western Europe, or more importantly, even Middle East, because oil prices have been high. These parts of the global economy have been doing reasonably well. However, the parts of the economy which are impacted by Ukraine war, by COVID war, and by Cold War contribute 65% of the world GDP. At the GDP of China plus Europe plus UK plus US, that's almost 60% of the world GDP, and that's a serious challenge. So now, if you look at it, what is this reflecting into? Mind you, this particular presentation which I'm giving, we came out with this 18 months back. 18 months back, we came out with this hypothesis that the interest rates are heading towards 4.5%. And if you look at the US dot plot, what is US dot plot? Every, policy, the Fed basically governors, they come out with a projection of how the interest rates are going to be for the next 2 years. In in June of 2021, the dot plot spoke about no hikes in 2022. I repeat, in mid of 2021, the dot plot, US dot plot, spoke about no hikes. The Fed governor spoke about no hike this year. And now, if you look at the previous policy, they're talking about 4.6% by mid of next year. So basically, please go back to the previous slide. So basically, what it means that the mortgage rates are going to go up. Now, mortgage rates going up means the real estate will also contract, and we expect, basically a 5 to 10% reduction in prices, if not more, in the real estate. Move forward. All in all, if you look at monetary tightening, the quantitative tightening, close to around $50 billion a month, is the tightening that US Fed started with in June this year. And this has almost been doubled. Effective September, mind you, we have just started. It's $92 billion per month. And we already know where the stock markets are. I know, so this is too heavy, I guess, but the idea is to appraise you of the risk. So what does it mean? So basically what it means, the implication is that the complexity is bizarre, and it's very similar to 1920s and 30s because of not the issues, but because of the solutions. The solutions that are being driven right now by US Fed is very similar to what they did in 1920s and 30s, and hence the similarity of the outcome. So what does it mean then? What does it lead to? So now the second part of my presentation is the investment side. So basically, this particular slide, while it's a single slide, I call it the mother of all slides because this is where the impact has been assessed at our end. So now look at very scientifically. If you look at reduction in money supply, the quantitative tightening, that's going to impact growth stock or tech stocks or venture capital, basically. We believe that the US tech stocks and NASDAQ is going to be in a bear market for another 1.5 to 2 years. Of course, there'll be technical bounces, but that will be just a rally to pull more people in. The most interesting of all this is the second point, which is increase in interest rates. Anybody who in the room is below 55 years, anybody who is below 55 years age hasn't seen a bear market in bond market, including me. So, we haven't seen a bear market in bond market. The bear market in bond market started in, the bull market started in 1981. It's been a 40 years bull market, and that just ended few quarters back. So we believe that the decline is going to continue, and we'll have sustained higher rates for a while. The increase in mortgage rates, as I said, is going to have a deflationary impact on the property prices. I repeat, the inflation is going to lead to deflationary impact on the asset prices. The more important point is that not just supply disruption, but also wage, inflation because of labor shortage is going to lead to margin contraction for value stock. Take example of FedEx or take example of Walmart. And all in all, this is going to increase the stress on the balance sheet. Now, I've been invited, to few basically risk committees of banks, and I was asked that what kind of risk do we see? This was 3 quarters back. I think there are typically 3 risks for any bank. One is retail defaulting. I don't see that happening this time round, except for credit card portfolio in United States. Second is corporate defaulting. The corporate balance sheets are not levered compared to 2008-9, so situation is not that bad again. But the third is counterparty lines for banks, basically countries defaulting. Start counting the number of countries that are going to default in this particular recession, and hence the counterparty line for banks are at risk. And that's a big deal. So if you look at now, the borrowing cost going up means levered products will have a serious challenge. I'm sure structured note, levered bonds and leverage-driven products gave fantastic returns in the last 10, 15 years. That party is over. And to all our, people, our prospective investors and in general stakeholders, we generally say one thing: stay away from leverage. This is the time you want to say no to leverage. Move forward, please. Okay, so what's the manifestation of this? Let's look at the manifestation. So this is a very interesting slide, S&P 500. The average price to earning multiple of S&P 500 has been around 15 for the last 140 years. Now, I want to ask, of course, I'm not there live, otherwise I would have, maybe asked for 2-3 minutes and then taken this point. How many articles are being written about translation losses? How many of you have actually heard or saw or seen basically or have read articles about translation loss? So what is translation loss? Basically currency losses. Now, essentially, a large chunk of US S&P 500 companies' earnings come through, markets outside United States of America. Now, if yuan has depreciated, if euro has badly depreciated, if pound has badly depreciated, if yen has badly depreciated, what's going to happen to the earning loss, the EPS loss due to translation loss for these S&P 500 companies? It's going to be massive. Is that factored? This year, the earning for S&P 500 is expected to be around 218 to 220. Because of translation loss alone, there could be a 10% reduction in earnings next year. Subtract that, we're talking 200. Average P of 15 over 140 years, we're talking 3,000 S&P 500. And God forbid if it goes to 12P, which is bear market P, it's 2,400. I'm not saying it's going to go there. I'm just giving you assessment of how the risks are stacked, even when the index is 3650. 18 months back, when we launched our absolute return fund, an absolute return fund essentially is about giving, positive returns irrespective of market conditions. Today, TIW Capital Group has investors across 27 countries. The S&P 500 at that time was 4,800 odd, and we projected 3,300. Nobody would have believed that.
Friends, the presentation is being continued on the screen outside because we have to vacate this hall for
leverage. These are times where you should look at income funds. So these are times where even like a lot of people ask me, why is gold falling? Typically when there is carnage, even gold has to fall because how do you really take care of the margin calls? But we believe next year gold should go up. So long story short, conservatism, knowing your risk, And my idea today was to appraise you of the risk. Risk may or may not materialize, but knowing them is extremely important. Just last one or two slides about us. So basically, as I said, we have investors across 27 countries. In US alone, we have investors from 13 states of United States of America. We basically have two different funds. One is a buyout fund, and one is an absolute return fund. Right now, our focus has been on absolute return. I say with a lot of pride and humility, we have been giving in our income fund and absolute return fund, a 9% dollar compounded payable quarterly back to investors, even in the turbulent times of last 18 months, without reduction in NAV, because this is a quant-based strategy. You will wonder how can that happen when asset classes have been going down? Because our entire approach is machine learning driven. We have 17 data scientists who actually look at intraday data and drive intraday returns through ETF investment. So it's direction agnostic. Basically, upside is a direction and downside is a direction, and these are momentum based. Move forward, Raji. Okay, a little background about the team. So while I'm the CEO of TIW Capital, the advisory council, we have people from different continents. Mr. Stephen Weil is based out of London. He's a renowned banker and helping a lot of conglomerates in the Nordic belt on change management. Then we have Mr. Moez Ali Bhai, he's chairman of Aga Khan Healthcare and Aga Khan Community in East Africa. Mr. Kamlesh Gandhi is from South Asia. He's done 320 IPOs and capital issues in the last 4 decades. And Mr. Satyamurthy is retired Deputy Comptroller Auditor General. And he, till recently, was with EU in Spain. Cumulatively, across 4 countries, we have basically 30 people strong team, apart from the advisory council and the board members that we have. Over last 2 decades, across funds I have been with, we have paid back $2 billion to investors as return with double-digit teen dollar compounding. And if somebody has to ask me one-line resume over last 5 recessions, over last 20 years, returns can swing, but haven't lost money for investors. Move forward, please. So basically with that, I'd like to end my discussion. I know virtual conferences are not easy, but I think the idea was today to give you, direction of how we see risks are stacked. A lot of our investors have been extremely appreciative of what we have been sharing for the last 18 months, because majority of these risks that we said, unfortunately, have materialized. Normally in a physical forum, when I'm present, the first statement I start with, whatever I'm going to say, I hope I'm wrong. But unfortunately, we have been seeing that even when risks were not necessarily stacked, we saw this coming purely because of labor shortage, and most people underestimated the labor shortage that got driven because of COVID crisis and associated protectionism, deglobalization across countries, and anti-vaccine activism, and I hate to say disincentivization to work. The doles and the unemployment allowance is nothing but disincentivization to work. So with that, I like to take it back to the moderator, and happy to take any questions and clarifications if there are any.
Hello, Mr. Mohit, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I think it was a great insight into the scenario and the investment world. And we would have loved you to be here. Actually, people were expecting you to be here in person, but we to explain them that the visa issues you could not make it, but you will be able to make it soon within a few months, and then we get to meet you in person and also talk about the opportunity which we discussed for our members with TIW Capital.
Look forward to. Look forward to, I think one thing I can share that I've been traveling across, and this particular fund has been creating a lot of excitement across markets. The reason is because we have been seeing massive re-upping across investor base because we anticipated it. The only challenge I must say is, on a lighter note, VFS Global, the website is down for getting Canadian visa in Singapore, and it's been down for the last 90 days. I'm sure pun is intended. If you go to Europe of late, you will see that the queues are massive, even at the airports. And that is another example of labor shortage, I guess.
Yeah. No, so I understand that. So once again, from on behalf of all the members of Toronto chapter of the ICI, we would like to thank you for your time. And I know it's 3 a.m. or 3:30 a.m. in your place in Singapore where you're talking from. And I know Raji also is supporting you from India, where I think it's 2 a.m. I guess or 1 a.m. So thank you so much for your time, efforts, and I really appreciate that. And we look forward to having you in person at our next event, and let's coordinate on that. With that, I
Look
will
forward
pass
to.
on the email, pass on your Raji's email to the members. If there's any question, I would appreciate them sending it directly to you so that they get a response from your side. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely fine. Absolutely fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for your time and your great insights, and we hope to see you soon in person. Thank you.
Thank you. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye.